Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today I'm coming to you all with a review for Honk For Jesus, Save Your Soul. Directed by Adamma Ebo, and starring Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown. Story-wise, the film is centered around Trinitie Childs, a proud First Lady who, along with her husband, Pastor Lee Curtis Childs, manages and serves a Southern Baptist megachurch. However, when a shocking scandal temporarily shutters their doors, Trinitie and Lee Curtis must resort to desperate measures to reopen their church, rebuild their congregation, and make the biggest comeback that commodified religion has ever seen. So, I'm going to start with the pros. If you couldn't already tell, there's a whole lot to enjoy here. Now, for those of you who weren't aware, this film initially premiered back in January at the Sundance Film Festival. I did have the opportunity to see it then, but I didn't get a chance to do a review. A lot of the Sundance reviews I wanted to do, I didn't really get a chance to. But I did share my thoughts on Letterboxd, and I left it at that. But with the new trailer being released, I figured, well, I've seen the film. Why not share my thoughts? Now, as I mentioned, this film is directed by Adamma Ebo. This is, in fact, her feature directorial debut, and she also wrote and produced the film as well. Additionally, her twin sister, Adamma Ebo, is also a producer, along with Regina Hall, Sterling K. Brown, and Daniel Kaluuya. This film is also a feature-length adaptation of Ebo's 2018 short film of the same name, which is also featured as a part of Issa Rae's Short Film Sunday series on YouTube. What I appreciate most about this film is its style and its story. We are basically exploring the dynamics of the Southern Baptist megachurch, but with a mockumentary structure. I can appreciate a good mockumentary as much as the next person, and I have to say that the Borat films are probably the best example of that.
Welcome to our country, okay?
My name is Borat.
Okay, good. Well, I'm not used to that, but that's fine.
I thought it was really entertaining digging into the culture of the megachurch and seeing all the different aspects and facets of that playing out. As someone who did grow up in the North with one separate experience in the church, then at one point moving down south and actually experiencing the megachurch and really seeing that firsthand, there was a lot that I found relatable in this film in positive and negative ways. Similarly, I think anyone who has had any form of that experience will really relate to and appreciate the satire and the subliminal commentary here. Especially when it comes to church hurt and how a lot of toxicity is often permitted within environments that should be about celebration and about healing and about unity and just positivity, and often we see the opposite being promoted. Like I said, I've had the experience on both ends of the spectrum, so I do understand. And I think that this will be really hilarious and on the nose for a lot of people. And for some other folks, I think we're going to hear a whole lot of hit dogs hollering, if you know what I mean. I can see it now. Regina Hall has been an absolute favorite of mine ever since I saw her in The Best Man in 1999, followed by Love and Basketball and Scary Movie in 2000. Whether you like Scary Movie or not, or whether you enjoy the franchise or not, you cannot deny that at least 80% of the funniest scenes from the first 4 films are because of her. There's no getting around it. There's no argument. It's just facts.
Oh, she is as fake as press-on nails. Hey, baby girl! Cindy, this bitch is messing up my floor! Maybe I could help him in a room in which there are no others. Or you can all watch. I don't give a shit.
For those who didn't know, 2024 will actually be her 25th anniversary as far as her being in the film industry for 25 years. Despite the fact that I still feel like she is criminally underrated, it has been so gratifying seeing all the various projects she's been involved with over the past few years, both comedic and dramatic. A lot of what works in this film is because of her and her awesome sense of comedic timing, and especially how expressive her face is, especially her eyes. There are so many scenes where she's saying so much without actually saying anything. And despite the fact that the film leans more heavily into comedy and satire, there were also some dramatic scenes here. And I loved seeing that as well because it really allowed us to see her navigate both sides of what she has to offer as an actress. And I think she did an awesome job with both. Now, our male lead here is Sterling K. Brown as Lee Curtis. Now, I specifically remember my introduction to Sterling K. Brown was as Njobu in Black Panther, followed by his role as Ronald Williams in Waves. It really wasn't until later that I realized that he was a part of This Is Us. And personally, I couldn't bring myself to watch because I was just like, I know this is a really good show, but I cannot be crying every single week. Like, my heart can't take it. I thought he was so solid in both those roles, and then he's also gotten so much acclaim for his work on This Is Us. So the assumption would be that his work was mostly relegated to dramatic roles. But interestingly enough, Adamma actually mentioned that there was this episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine that he was featured on, and apparently he knocked it out of the park as far as the comedy. And she saw him in that role, and she was like, okay, I didn't know he had these comedic chops, but we definitely have to lock him down for this role. And talk about perfect casting when I tell you. I mean, there's not a lot to even say about it because it really speaks for itself, much like Regina Hall. But I think that he is the perfect counterpart to Regina Hall, especially comedically. I mean, just the shenanigans, just the delivery, just his character.
You ain't really getting that many beeps, baby. Shake it for the Lord. Shake it for the Lord. I said, shake it for the Lord. In my house for the Lord.
It is such an excellent performance, and I just really appreciated being able to see this side of Sterling K. Brown and seeing him be able to express it in such a great role. And it's interesting because I've seen him in interviews, and he's just naturally funny, and he's naturally comedic, even when he's just speaking in conversations. But just seeing it here, it's just like, wow. It really is something to see, and I really hope and I believe that he'll only continue to take on more comedic roles from here because... yes. Our costume designer here is Lorraine Coppin. She's previously been a costume designer and costume supervisor for series and films like Crazy Sexy Cool, the TLC story, Single Ladies, Rescue Me, and Greenleaf, among many others. I mean, the Greenleaf connection makes perfect sense, especially with the costuming here. I mean, if you have seen some of these churches, if you have been and had that experience, then you've seen, how, we show up and we show out, the colors and the bonnets and the hats and just, the spectacle of it all. We show up and we show out and you're dressed to impress, dress your best for Jesus and so on and so forth. So seeing that showcase in this film was really enjoyable. There's a sequence where Trinity goes to this shop and she's showing all the different customizable bonnets and hats and the styles, and I really, really love that. So shout out to Lorraine because that was another part of this film that I really, really enjoyed. All right, now I'm going to jump over to the cons. Unfortunately, there are a couple of things that really prevent this film from reaching its full potential. As funny, as solid, and as spectacular as Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown are in this film, I honestly feel that the script and the story really lets them down. Despite how magnetic and charming and hilarious both of them are, the material just isn't keeping up with them, and it just doesn't give them enough to work with. I think there are a lot of moments, both dramatic and comedic, that fall flat, whereas they could have been like so funny and really delve deeper. And I think that also makes the story kind of fall flat as well. We obviously are navigating this situation involving a scandal, and that makes for a very uncomfortable experience, especially as we delve further into what the nature of that scandal is and why it has suddenly disrupted Trinity and Lee Curtis's lives. I felt like the comedy never really worked the way I thought it would. There were some moments where it really, really hit well, but then there were a lot of moments where it was just kind of like, I was wanting it to just like hit the right way and it just never got there. And the same with the dramatic moments. I felt like we could really dig deep with this scandal, understanding the impact of it, the psychological impact, the controversy, there are so many places we could have pulled from to really like flesh out the story, to flesh out Trinity, to flesh out Lee Curtis, and really understand more about them, along with the satire. I didn't think that we had to just delve super, super deep, and forget about the comedy, but there was never a balance there. And I felt like even when we did get the dramatic moments, they just never hit, they never came alive. I wanted to really feel the weight of this experience. I wanted to feel the weight of what this really meant for the two of them and the church and them rebuilding. But I felt like we never really get that insight. Doing it that way and not delving deep enough then means that we're left seeing Trinity and Lee Curtis as just caricatures almost, or just kind of these semi one-dimensional figures. And it really made it feel like the film was just kind of plodding along, kind of dragging along. Not that there weren't interesting dynamics here, but we never really get it. We never really delve into it. So a lot of the time we're just kind of watching, these funny moments and these hints at these other things that are going on beneath the surface, but we don't we don't get it. We don't go there. We're kind of waiting for it to reach a certain climax, and it just never really gets there, which is so unfortunate. I also thought the ending was very abrupt, which kind of made everything feel very inconsequential. I've said plenty of times, I'm here for open-endedness and ambiguity, but it just kind of felt like, given what we had seen up until then, it was just kind of like, that's it. So, I'm going to give Honk For Jesus, Save Your Soul, a C-. Now, I have to tell you, I was so excited when I heard about this film. And when I saw who was starring in it, when I saw the story, I was so here for it. I was excited. Unfortunately, I feel like despite excellent performances from Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown, it's just that the story never gets to where it needs to be. It's never as insightful or as funny as it could be. And it's just ugh. It's so frustrating because you see the potential. And I've said plenty of times how I feel about the potential in films and how that can often be more frustrating than a film that really is excellent or really, really bad. It's just we're right there. And a lot of times that's the most frustrating experience of all. But although the film didn't completely come together for me, I would say it's worth watching at least just to see Regina Hall and Sterling K. Brown in action, because they really are hilarious. They're so on point, and if nothing else, I definitely appreciated them putting their all into these roles and into this film, because yes. Honk for Jesus, save your soul will be released in theaters and on Peacock September 2nd. You guys feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movie.